What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I am Just Jen. That's me. Okay, so as you know, I have been making videos about my addiction story, where it took me, what I lost, the whole progression of my addiction was broadcasted on my first and second installment. This will be my third installment, and this is where Just Jen goes to prison. Now, in my story, my first addiction story, I talked about my progression, okay, and my second is what I lost and my getting arrested and so many failed rehab attempts. I progressed. I'll go do a little recap for you guys real quick. When I was 12 years old, I started drinking alcohol. That was my gateway drug, was alcohol, and then the marijuana was after that, and then the hallucinogenics, ecstasy, cocaine, crack, methamphetamines, pills, heroin. And, you know, it was a very dark time of my life. It spanned a lot longer than I initially thought. I started, my first sip of alcohol was when I was 4 years old with my grandfather. I would sip the foam off of his beer. And then I slowly progressed that I wanted more, you know. And then I started getting into trouble. I hung out with only people that used heroin, and this was when I was 26 years old. And so I started to get into trouble naturally. DUIs, being arrested for possession of drugs, which inevitably, my third one, I was sentenced to prison, 3 years to be exact. So I want to tell you a little bit what happened. So what had happened was there was a huge operation, a federal operation, and it was an undercover drug sting. And there was a gang in Cleveland, Ohio, that was running heroin and selling it, and a lot of people were dying. This was 2013. The investigation started in 2012, and it had been going on for a whole year. Well, my drug dealer that I had, he was being tapped. His phone was tapped by the federal government, by the Drug Enforcement Agency and the FBI. Well, they had put a GPS locator on his vehicle, and by my phone calls alone, they didn't catch me with any drugs. Let me put that out there right here and right now. They say possession is 9/10 of the law. Well, I was that 1/10, and they hit me with 5 F4 possession of heroin, which the scale F5 is the less severe of the felonies, which is it's under 1 gram of heroin, and you will get a felony of the 5th degree. Well, I got 5 F4s, so that was over 1 gram and under 5 grams, just by my phone call. My drug dealer actually testified against me in the court and said that yes, I sold her those drugs on those days. It pretty much. It was an open and shut case. They believed the drug dealer. He got a couple years shaved off of his sentence. He had been to prison before, mind you, and he was selling drugs before. I was only buying drugs. I was buying drugs because I had a habit, and if I didn't buy those drugs, I was going to get sick. So September of 2013, I was at my parents' house at 8 o'clock in the morning. My poor father was sitting outside on the front porch, and he says, "Jennifer, you need to come out here right now." Well, I went out there, and the whole sidewalk was lined with about 6 agencies from the federal government, the FBI, the DEA, the U.S. Marshals were there, and like 4 other agencies, I'm not sure. But I'm going to tell you this much. They had guns, and they were lined up. My parents' sidewalk is pretty long, about, I'd say, 75 feet long in the front of their home. And they were lined up deep with M16s with my picture. And I'm like, I had no idea why am I being arrested? I didn't get caught with any drugs. Well, a week before they did the bust, and they did the huge roundup of people, I got a phone call from a detective, and he says, "Hi, is this Jennifer? You've been a witness, named as a witness in a shooting." And I says, "No, I haven't. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't been to Cleveland in, God, I don't know how long, like days. I was getting drugs, you know." And I lied, and I said, "No, it wasn't me." Well, I didn't know that was the detective just making sure that I had the same phone number and that they were going to find me by my cell phone, the ping, right? So they used that, and they actually charged me with criminal tools for using my cell phone in transactions for drug buying. And that roundup, now this was a 93 person indictment. So our indictment was like that thick, like 1,100 pages thick, and 63 co-defendants were charged by the state of Ohio, like I was, and 30 of the co-defendants were charged federally, like the drug dealers. It was a big network of gang members, and I'm not going to name the gang because I don't want to get killed. They asked me to roll on the drug dealers, and I said no because they knew where I lived. They knew where my parents lived. I was stupid enough to allow them to come to my home where I had a child at the time, and a young child. He was about 8 years old at the time. And I'm like, no, I won't do that. Just, you know what? Do what you got to do. So I'm in jail. We rounded up with all of these other people. We're all dope sick at the same time. It was an absolute disaster. The Cuyahoga County Justice Center was full of dope sick people. And if you've never gone through drug withdrawals, I'm telling you what, it's like the flu times a million, and you wish you would die. Honestly, it feels like you're going to die, but you don't die. So the jail is crowded, right? And we all go in front of the judge for a an arraignment. And this is where you plead guilty or not guilty. And if you plead guilty, they sentence you right there on the spot, which I probably should have done. I probably should have pled guilty and said, I'm done. And so I said not guilty, of course, because you kind of want to obtain a lawyer if, like, you have questions about the case. Like, I thought I could beat it because I didn't have any drugs. I was so stupid back then. So we get to the Justice Center, and we're all dope sick. We all go to the arraignment. We all plead not guilty, and then they hand out our judges to us. The guy in front of me went, and when they said my judge's name, I was like, oh my God, she's one of the worst judges in Cuyahoga County. She's one of the strictest judges. And my turn was next. And they're like, well, if you're pleading not guilty, you're going to go to a preliminary hearing, and this is where we set your bond. This is your judge. And I'm like, oh, no, not my judge, not my judge. So needless to say, I got that judge, and I took it to pretrial. I wanted an attorney to dissect everything wrong that the state of Ohio did. Unfortunately, there was really not much we could do. The evidence was there. The phone call, the GPS, everything. The drug dealer testifying against me didn't help either. So I got probation, and I violated probation because I believe that the justice system is messed up, and it needs reform like no one's business. How are you going to put a bunch of drug addicts on probation and expect them to pass a drug test? No, not going to happen. So, of course, I violated that probation, and I was subsequently arrested and sentenced to, I wasn't sentenced, but I sat in jail for many, many months, like 3 months. And then I went back to court, and she says, all right, you're going to drug treatment. So she sent me to a treatment for the longest term possible, which was 62 days. Again, not long enough in treatment. You need years of recovery and rehabilitation for drug treatment, and you have to want it. As soon as the courts tell you that you have to do it, if you're a drug addict, you're not going to do it. So I went to treatment. I was sober for 5 months. I completed the treatment there. 1 week I was out. I seen a friend at an AA meeting that I was supposed to go to, that I was required to go to via probation. Well, I seen him high, and that's all it took. I was like, oh my God, I just want to try that. I just want to do it one more time, just one more time. Well, that one more time almost killed me, and I overdosed on probation. And I was absolutely arrested 6 days later, and my judge told me, you're not dying on my docket. And guess what she did? She says, you're going to prison for 36 months. And she could have sent me for 54 months, so I was gracious enough that she dropped, 18 months off my sentence. But so here I am. And I go sit in jail for 2 weeks, and then I am shipped off to the Ohio Reformatory for Women. And this is the oldest women's prison in Ohio. And so I get there, and a lot of you guys out there think that women's prison is just this big lesbian fest, and that these women are just sleeping with all the guards. Now, I would like to say that's not true, but it does happen. A lot of relationships go down in the penitentiary because we're women. We need company. I was not gay for the stay. And so I basically was by myself. I didn't need the attention of a guard, nor did I want the attention of another female, because all of the women that had relationships, they were getting cheated on. And then guess what happens? Or they're leaving, blah, blah, blah. They go to the hole. They start fighting. So many women's fights I've seen were over relationships. So I get there, and you're in a massive bay with bunk beds, okay? And there's 250 on, or no, there's 125 on one side, 125 on the other. 250 women in admissions at once. And I do believe they made with the opioid epidemic, they even made the rec room into a bay for bunk beds. That's how full the women's prison was. Now, you sit in a quarantine for like 30 days before you pop out into general population. But when you get to the prison, you go through an intake process, which means you're getting a pap smear. They're taking blood and making sure that you're not, you don't have AIDS, HIV, hepatitis, no STDs. You know, they basically do a health screen on you to see if you're suitable to pop out into general population. The pregnant women, either they go to the FMC medical center, or they wait to get into the nursery program if their sentence is light enough and a short sentence. They have a nursery there in the prison where the women get to stay with their children and then go home with their children. So they don't go in the system. So you're sitting in admissions. You go to chow 3 times a day. You go in the morning at like 4:30 in the morning, and then you go again at like 12:30 for lunch, and then again at like 4:30 for dinner. And you cannot get stuff on commissary while you're sitting in admissions. My parents didn't know how to do the setup and set everything up. So basically you're starving for a month. And I dropped like 20 pounds when I was in admissions. And then I got into a fight on my 21st day in admissions. So then I sat in the hole for 14 days. Now, women in the women's prison are vile. They're a lot of them are disgusting. A lot of them put maxi pads all over the place, because we didn't get tampons until we went to commissary, and that you don't go to commissary until you actually go into general population. But before this, after intake and your medical and stuff, you go to the quartermaster, which you're going to get your coat, your shoes, your prison states. We call them states, and that's your prison outfit. And you get a couple pairs of underwear, a couple pairs of socks that are used. The underwear is new, but the socks are somebody else has worn them if they're still in good shape. And the shoes are not brand new either. They give you shoes from that other people wear. The showers are you need shower shoes, and they give you I believe they give you shower shoes, and you need absolutely wear them, and it's pretty nasty. The showers at the time they didn't have the PREA curtains, which is Prison Rape Elimination Act. They actually had just yellow, really flimsy shower curtains that weren't plastic. They were kind of cloth-like with Velcro, so they were always falling down. We had male guards coming in all the time. It was pretty creepy, to say the least. So I'm in admissions for 30 days. I go to the hole for 2 weeks. I come back, and I'm in admissions for like 3 more days. And then I go to general population. That's where they send you to your housing unit. And I remember going to my housing unit, and I was in a bay also. It's the same thing in general population. You have these massive bays with all of these women, these bunk beds. And because I was so short, I got a bottom bunk order. And I had that bottom bunk order the whole time I was in prison. Believe me, you don't want to be on the top bunk. And you don't want to be in prison, period. So if you can spare going to prison, I highly suggest you do that. So I pop out into general population. My mother puts money on my books, and about a month into my prison stay, I get a form from the Cuyahoga County Clerk of Court saying, you owe us court fines. We are going to take anything that's over $25 a month. We're going to take that towards your court fines. And do you know that they would take 1 cent? Literally, I've watched them take 1 cent out of my account. Like, it cost more to send than for them what they took. It was absolutely crazy. So my mother would send me money and on somebody else's books, and she would send me food boxes. You can get up to 3 a year, and it's just a massive amount of food that you go to the vault to go get, and you can order new shoes. You can order all kinds of stuff for inmates. They're like Union Supply or Walking Horse was a really good one for the new Nikes, sports bras, all kinds of stuff that like a TV. I had a TV. I had a JP4 player, and it was actually like a media player, and it was like a little tablet. And we actually got tablets and then Wi-Fi with games and stuff on them. By the time I think it was about 6 to 8 months before I left, I got a JP5 player. It was an upgraded version, much bigger. It was clear plastic. A TV was clear plastic, so you couldn't hide any contraband in there. I went to the hole a couple times and got, you don't get your same bed when you get back. So the bunkie that you had, yeah, you're not going to have that bunkie neighbor or that good bunkie anymore. You're going to a different section or a different cottage altogether. But luckily for me, I went back into the same cottage, but just switched sides a couple of times. Stupid reasons for going to the hole. I'm not going to get into it. It's just dumb. And putting money on people's books is a crime, I guess. And you can't do that. If it's up to the courts, you're going to starve if need be. So I seen a lot of disgustingness while I was in prison. Like, for instance, a girl was in there. A woman, I can't say girl, a woman was in there. She was a prostitute, and she was sleeping with men knowing that she had the HIV virus. And so she was sleeping with men for her drug money, and she was infecting them with HIV. Well, this woman we made homemade tampons in there if you couldn't afford the Tampax on the commissary, which I always bought the Tampax. Now, you take the maxi pad and actually rip apart the pad and take the inside, you roll it up, and then you kind of make a tampon, a homemade tampon, out of the maxi pad. But this woman would make homemade tampons. She would go into the bathroom, and she wouldn't even wash her hands. So I'm like, oh my God. So we all got sick of it one day, and we're like, listen, like, she's not washing her hands. She has HIV. We don't want her blood and stuff all over the place. I think it's disgusting. So she inevitably got in trouble for that. But like, I've seen women like go to the bathroom and just put their maxi pads, stick them on the stall wall, and we had no toilet seat covers, no lids for the toilets. It was a stainless steel toilet, or we got the porcelain one with no toilet lid. So if you're little, you're going to fall in. But when I tell you this, I seen a poop, and it looked like a big loaf of pumpernickel bread. And this happened with this. We tried to narrow it down as to who did this, but we didn't. And it flooded the entire cottage. All of our plumbing stopped working. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. The showers. Let me touch on the women's showers. Not only did women have sex in the showers, because the male guards couldn't see through the curtains, and once they passed the Prison Rape Elimination Act, they got PREA curtains, which there was a like an opaque center, and the top and bottom were actually clear, so the guards can see, they could see in there to see if there's 2 pairs of feet in there or 2 women in there. What I didn't like about that was I was short and the guards were very tall, and they could look in on me naked. Not to say that it was anything good to see, because when I started getting those food boxes and I started getting that commissary, and I would give people money to shop on their books, I got big. I was like at my highest, I think I was about 200 pounds in there, and it was pretty bad. I ate whatever junk food I wanted, and it was the chow hall you don't want to go to unless you necessarily have to. The people that don't have money, they starve, basically. And the beans are listed as not for human consumption whatsoever. And the only time I went to chow hall was when they had chicken patties. I'm pretty sure it wasn't real chicken. But we, at the end of my prison sentence, towards the end, we got fresh favorites, which was like hamburgers and really gourmet good food. And so I plumped up. And then my mom and dad would come once a month to bring my son to see me. And that was the hardest time in my prison sentence, was going to the visits. Because before you go to the visit, they have to schedule in advance, first of all, and sometimes they can't get an appointment. So my mom and dad would come once a month, and they would drive 2.5 hours there and 2.5 hours back. They'd stay for about an hour and a half, and then, bring my son to see me, which he was very angry at me at that time, which he had every right to be angry with me. So when you get called for your visit, you walk down to you go from your cottage, that's your housing unit, you walk down to the White House, which is where the visitation hall, where the administrative offices are, the lieutenants and stuff stay there. Security outpost is in there with all the cameras and stuff like that. You go walk yourself from your cottage. Actually, a guard will escort you there. The yard is pretty much closed on Sundays when visitation's going on. They don't want passing of contraband. So you go in, you hand them your pass, because the guards will write you a pass. Sometimes you get escorted, sometimes you don't. If you're in the hole, you don't get visitation. So there was a couple of times there where I didn't get my visitation because I was a naughty girl. So you walk to the White House, you go in, you hand her your pass, and you strip naked. You take everything off, you lift your boobs up, you shake your hair out, you open your mouth, and you turn around, you squat, you spread your butt cheeks apart, and you cough. Now, you go in and you visit with your family after you get dressed, of course, and here is basically where the contraband comes into the prison, unless a guard is bringing it in. So, when you have your visit with your family, you're under watchful eyes of cameras, and those cameras can zoom in on everything. So they actually make your parents or your family or your visitors, whoever, go get the stuff out of the vending machine. They open it up, and then they have to throw the wrappers away and give it to you on a paper plate so they can watch for contraband. A lot of times I've seen where visits were cut short by the Ohio Highway Patrol, because they were bringing drugs in. Now, back to those showers. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me stop there. When you are done with your visit, you better bet that you're going to be strip searched again every time. So you're strip searched 2 times every visit that you go to, before you go to the visit and after. And the hardest part of a visit was saying goodbye to my family and my son, and looking at them, and they're crying because they have to leave me here. But I know that my mom and my dad had peace of mind. Even my son, even though he hated me being in prison and what I'd done to get myself into prison, he was very mad at me. But at least they had peace of mind knowing that I was safe. The back to the showers. Now, there was sometimes where people would come back from their visits, and they had to get that contraband out somehow because they ingested it in their mouths. Well, they didn't do it in the toilet, because the guard, there's actually windows in the bathroom where the guards from the guard station, they could actually look in and see somebody, digging through their crap. So what do? They crapped in the showers. And I don't know how many times, I can't even tell you how many times biohazard unit had to come to clean up somebody's crap. And you could tell if they got a visit or not, because, it was picked through. And a long time, like, the COs and the sergeants were actually trying to pinpoint who had a visit, who's known to carry drugs, and they would get busted that way. And then we had random drug testing. We had a lot of random searches as well. They would bring dogs in sometimes, and they would turn that place upside down. You were subject to random searches whenever they felt like it. If they suspected you of anything, you were getting strip searched and your whole area torn to shreds. Well, I've got tickets. There's things called tickets in the prison, and that's just for anything. You give a guard or any kind of authority figure any kind of lip or any kind of attitude. It's called disrespect. I got a couple of those. And out of place, which means if you're going to the bathroom, you go to your bed, that's it. Do not stop. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Get to your cell or get to your area. Don't go see your friends. I've been caught so many times in other people's areas that, I got an out of place ticket, a couple of those. So Those are just one of the millions of things you can get tickets for. Relationships, you can get a major ticket for, and a whole shot for that. Fighting, you're going to definitely go to the hole because women tell. You can't get away with anything in there, so you better not even bother going to the bathroom. Just do it, duke it out in front of everybody, just because you're going to get snitched on anyways. The snitching that went on there, absolutely remarkably crazy, and I almost felt like this. Why don't y'all snitch before you got into prison? Therefore, you didn't come to prison. We have plenty of snitches in here. Y'all should have just did it before. Well, that's just not how things work out. Women are very talkative, they're very chatty, and they like to gossip. So, of course, word spreads fast. You get caught, you go to the hole. So, not only did you get to deal with the shitting in the showers, so you wear shower shoes all the time. You also get the women that are just throwing tampons or pads in the showers all over the bathrooms. The male guards even told me that the male prisoners are so much more cleaner than the females, and I don't doubt that one bit because I dealt with that. It was the most vile, disgusting thing ever. So I passed my time pretty much by drawing a lot, walking the yard, doing sports. I got really big into yoga also towards like the end of my stay, and I actually dropped like I think almost 50 pounds before I left. So I was doing yoga and being more active, and I drew cards for people because I'm pretty artistic. I just actually found some of my drawings up in my trunk that my mother saved, and my son Matthew, I drew him a bunch of stuff as well. I sent him birthday cards, just cards, Family Guy, Adventure Time. I would draw him all of these cartoons, and the ladies would pay me to draw for them. It was neat. They did prison tattoos in there, but they used the ink from a gel pen, and it was like a dip and poke. So they dipped it in the gel pen ink, and then they just did it with a needle. I'm proud to say I didn't get any tattoos in prison. If you get caught with prison tattoos, not only are you going to pay the money because they're going to pay for you to give them, they need to get an HIV/AIDS test from you, and also you're going to the hole. You're going to the hole. It's not worth it for me. And I also got into college. I went back to college, and I went through Microsoft certification, which is like PowerPoint, Excel, Word, and I did remarkably well in school, actually, regardless of having ADHD. I actually went to college again for my social work prerequisites, and I was on the dean's list. I got a 4.0 GPA, and that was a lot of fun. We had arts and crafts department as well. You can use money on your books to go ahead and get arts and crafts. And again, I would have to put money on other people's books and have them buy it for me because that we get put on a thing called legal, and that means anything over $25. Your county of commitment that committed you to prison is going to take that money for their court fines and stuff like that. Pretty stupid, I know. But I did get into school, and I did get into I got back and got my education. I wanted to do that. A lot of the women there, though, not a lot of them had even high school diplomas. So they offered a GED program. I was actually a GED tutor, and it was pretty nice. And when you program and go to school, or you're helping out and you're doing programming, you actually get 5 good days a month if you are good and you don't go to the hole. So many times I went and I lost my good days because I went to the hole. So they take all of those good days away for that month. But there was also me getting 90 days off of my sentence because I didn't go to the hole. I was being good. There's also a tapestry unit there that's a drug treatment program. Good luck getting into it, though. In those honor dorms like JG and the tapestry, you have 2-man cells. And it's you have to like abide by all of these rules. I felt like, oh my God, this is like a cult. I don't want to be in this one. But they also have a dog program there, and it's the Circle Tails organization. They actually train service dogs there, and they have a doggy daycare / boot camp for the guards' dogs. So you're actually trusted with the correctional officers' dogs. And I put in for the dog program, and you have to take tests and stuff like that. And I actually made it in there, and I was in a 4-man cell actually over in the dorm, and I was bunked up with Becky, with Sam, with Tiffany, and myself. And we had a crazy lady named Amy. She was absolutely remarkably nuts and jealous that, my parents did send money on other people's books. We go every 2 weeks to commissary. And I was helping out Becky because Becky had no money whatsoever. And so I was helping Becky out and getting her whatever, like $50 worth of commissary, which to somebody that has no money, that is a lot of stuff. And toiletries and stuff like your Pantene is like $6. And I use Pantene Pro-V, and my mother was like, oh my God, that crap is gross. But it's the best that we had in the prison. So, and we could get makeup as well. We can get CoverGirl makeup, foundation, blush. You can get eyeliner. You can also get eyeshadows as well. So and a powder compact. So I had all of that as well. I had everything that I possibly wanted. But if you have stuff like that, you have to have a receipt for it, or it goes to the Contraband Vault. Well, when I would help Becky out, Amy. She actually told on me and Becky. So Becky was in that dog program for a long time. Well, she got kicked out with me. And we had to go back to general population. Thankfully, she was actually moved to where I was. So she actually got to stay in the same cottage as I did. So I continued to look out for her. One day I got a kite or a pass to come to the Contraband Vault. They took all of the food that I bought on Becky's books and mine. And so I get a pass one day, and it's a pass for the Contraband Vault. And I'm going there, and the sergeant is like, hey, is this you? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. Didn't even think that she was going to ask me for a receipt or anything. I kind of knew she would, but I was like, screw it, Jennifer, just go. She didn't ask me for a receipt. I got $100 worth of food back. And I was like, hell yeah. Me and Becky ate really good for a couple days on that. It was a lot of fun. But Becky had to go to the chow hall before I came around. So I helped her out. But we were in the dog program. Becky had trained a lot of the dogs. She taught me everything I knew about training service dogs, and they did the canine good citizenship testing there and everything. I got to see the ins and outs of that and learn how to train service dogs. It was actually pretty neat. Long story short, Becky got to go back into the dog program. I did not, because I was leaving anyways. So I did the 26 months in Ohio Reformatory all together with my good time off. And then for the last 6 months of my sentence, I got to go actually to the halfway house that was in Cleveland, Ohio. All right, so recovery. You would think that if you're a drug addict and you're there on drug charges, that you could get into a recovery program. No, you can't. You get there and you write a kite to the whatever department you need, some medical, you need dental, you need recovery services, you want to snitch on somebody, you write a kite. So, or if you need clothing for the quartermaster, commissary, you want to work there, and you do get a job also as soon as you pop into general population. So, it was basically like this. I kited when I got there, as soon as I got into admissions for recovery services, for me to get into a treatment program, a drug treatment program. It's called HEARTS. It's like 4 to 6 months long. Well, this is another reason why we need reform, because it goes based on your name on the list goes by your out date. So say you have a 3-year sentence like I did. Say somebody comes in 2 years after you and is leaving before you, they get bumped up on that list and your name goes back down. So for 2 long years, I kited recovery service. 2 years for me to kite recovery services, for me to get into the HEARTS program. Nothing. Oh, we'll get you in as soon as we can. 2 years. I'm there for drugs. I'm like, hello, I'm here for drug possession. I'm a heroin addict. I've been sober for 2 years now. I really, really need a drug program because I'm going to be leaving in less than a year. I really need some treatment so I don't reoffend, because you're all about the recidivism, right? They say that they're all about recidivism and trying to the motto is trying to bring down the recidivism rates, but they don't offer any kind of rehab or treatment while you're in there. You have to kite for it. And you have to be lucky. So my 2-year mark of me frustrated, I'm kiting and I'm like, what is going on? I'm walking to the recovery services. I'm going to NA meetings. I'm actually talking at them. I'm leading them. So number 2 year of me doing this, I go on the yard and I see the guy who is running the Hearts program. And I walk up to him and I says, hi, my name is Jennifer, and I know I'm inmate number so-and-so, and I really want to get into the Hearts program. I've been kiting for 2 years, and I'm leaving in less than a year. Can you please get me in? Yeah, come talk to me tomorrow or next week. So next week rolls around, I go back and I talk to him, I find him on the yard again. Hey, remember me? Can you please get me into this program? I've done this, that, and the other. Went back to college. I've done this. I'm not getting out. I've not gotten into any trouble whatsoever except the stupid whole shot for me, contraband, buying food on somebody else's books. Nothing violent anymore. Nothing like that. So finally, I was accepted into the program. Well, the instructor was fired because he was having a relationship with the inmate, one of the inmates, a couple inmates actually, and bringing them drugs. So he was fired, and Miss Swingle actually had taken his place. And I'm telling you what, she was as an absolute doll. In fact, I don't know if she still works for the Ohio Reformatory for Women. I probably should give her a call. I did get a hold of her after I got out of prison to let her know, hey, I'm okay and I'm doing good. But I'm sure she would love to know that I am doing remarkably well, and I'm going to be celebrating my 7th year of sobriety here soon on November 1st. So I might have to get in, because she was instrumental in teaching me to see consequences before my actions and actually changing my whole way of thinking. Like, literally, I had no clue that I was hurting everybody else until I went to prison. I had no idea that I had a death wish until I went to prison. I had no idea what I was missing out on in life until I was taken away and went to prison, and everything was taken away from me. You know, you are property of that state. You know, your rights are non-existent. I've seen some pretty horrific stuff in that prison. There was actually a guard who was caught having an affair with a married guard was caught having an affair with an inmate, and he was under investigation, and he actually shot himself in one of the perimeter vehicles. That happened. Another time, I was in admissions when I first got there and watched a lady run full tilt towards the fence. Well, they gave her an extra 10 years for that. She couldn't get out. There's razor wire. I will never forget pulling into that place and seeing this massive gate and razor wire all around it, and it opens up, and when it closed behind that van that I was in, I almost lost my shit. I was so scared. A friend of mine who I went to high school with was actually in prison with me, and I looked out for her, and she ended up stabbing me in the back and sleeping with my son's father while I was with him. So it was like a double kick in the face from knowing somebody when I was like 17 years old to helping her out in prison, making sure she was okay, making sure no one kicked her ass. And that happened. And, you know, when I got into a fight with the girl from admissions, me and her actually ended up being friends years later. Like, we were popped into the same cottage after I came back from JG, from the dog program. I was actually popped into Shirley too. The cottages were named after the prior wardens. So I popped into Shirley too, and there was Kai right there, and she was like, oh hell no. And I'm like, can we bury the hatchet, girl? Like, and so I kind of like went next to her bed and was talking to another inmate that I knew, and I was just acted like she didn't bother me. Like, I'm not afraid of you. Let's just say fuck it and let's like bury the hatchet and not worry about it whatsoever. And we turned out to be best friends almost in there. We kicked it. We cooked. It was a lot of fun. And she told me like it was funny because like after so long, like we were joking around and like people piss you off in there. Everybody is like, you're with all these women, your cycles all sync. So everyone's on their period at the same time. And so these people were pissing me off and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to punch you in the face. Oh, okay, Jen. And Kai came up and was like, listen, she hits really hard. You don't want to mess with Jen. She will punch you and it's going to hurt. Because when she told me when I punched her in the head, it hurt really bad. And I was like, girl, same. you know, but we ended up becoming friends. It was a lot of fun. And I met a lot of good people in there as well, that I'm friends with today still. A lot of good women that have changed their life around and are doing remarkably well and promise to never go back there. And what was so sad was seeing the women that were being released and come back, or seeing the women that were being released and they didn't make it back. They would die. So that was kind of my aha moment. I'm never going to do this again. And I was one and done. And I told my family and my son, like, listen, this is never going to happen again. I'm never using drugs again. I'm never coming back to prison. And I meant that. And so by talking about this, it helps me remember what it was like. And being in prison with a bunch of child molesters, or with women that killed their kids in most horrific ways. And it just gives me the just remembering what that was like, being away from my kids, and these women are killing their kids. It's like, and you guys are still walking around breathing? Like, why aren't these women killing these women? But, you know, they get protected in there by the guards. They do. They get protected. They there's no the only PC that they have, which is like protection, is in the hole. And a lot of the women were like, we don't want to go to the hole. So everybody knew if you beat up a child molester or a baby killer, you're going to the hole. So they didn't want to risk that. I'm like, what's wrong with these people? So, you know, I tried to kind of like, towards the like 2-year mark of my prison stay, I kind of tried my best just to stay out of trouble, focus on school, focus on helping myself, so I didn't reoffend and go back there. Chances are, if you reoffend, if you already have a prison number, they're going to just give you another one, and that's how that cycle continues. So I made it my point not to do that. I wanted to touch on Orange is the New Black, because it's absolutely nothing like what you see there. We don't have curling irons and stuff like that. We did have a couple transgendered inmates, actually, but they had sex changes, so they're technically women. And we had two trans inmates there. Audrey was one, very sweetheart, and another, I forget her name, I think Tracy, and she was actually in the medical ward. It was the unit for the people that had very severe mental health issues. So she was protected in there, and they weren't really allowed out with the general population. We got to go on the yard, and like on weekends we got to wear our bought clothing, like the shorts and the t-shirts that we could buy in the boxes. But you're not allowed to suntan. If you get suntan, you're destroying state property. That's a ticket. But me and my friend Amy would rub baby oil on our legs, and we would sit out there and rub it on and roll up our sleeves and put our shorts up as far as they could go, and we would get some sun on our faces and our arms and our legs, and then we'd get yelled at. We'd have to put them back down and stuff like that. The countless of guards that I've seen lose their job for sleeping with inmates, it wasn't worth it to me, because you get caught like that, you're doing a long time in the hole, like 4 to 6 months. I met a lot of cool guards there, that they treated me actually like a human being. Officer Whiten, he was awesome. He actually got the CO, Correctional Officer of the Year award, because he treated us like human beings, and he was very consistent and very fair. But he treated us all the same. No fighting, no effing, and no drama. And he was so cool. He would leave the lights off during the weekends, because, when you're in a dormitory setting like that, those fluorescent lights could really get to you. And I remember being in the first housing unit, and there was a guard there, and his name was Officer, I'm not going to say his name because I don't think I can, but he would come in, and this gave me I have PTSD already, but this traumatized me. Every morning he would come on at 6 a.m. on his shift and go, "Man on the unit, first shift," like that. And I would jump up out of my bed, and I can't be the one that startles awake, because that will screw me up the whole day. He did this 5 days a week until we all complained about it. Like, look, you have women in here, and good luck getting in mental health if you need it. Unless you're batshit crazy, you're not going to get any kind of treatment or medications in there whatsoever, or unless you come in with medications. It's very hard. It took me 8 months to get into the mental health, and then they deemed me, you don't need medication. I'm like, okay, cool. And I didn't take anything. But it was very traumatizing to say the least, and we got him in trouble for that, and he stopped for a while, but then he started doing it again. It was actually a pain in the butt, and a lot of the women that I talked to, he waited 6 months until after they left, which they do, and they're not committing any kind of crime or jeopardizing their job if they wait 6 months to talk to the inmates on Facebook or whatnot. And a lot of the women were telling me that this specific CO had hit them up. I never gave them that vibe, like, look, you can't talk to me like that. And I had a lot of self-respect, even though I was in there for drugs. But imagine me being in there, and my first job in the prison was a porter, and that's cleaning, sweeping, mopping bathrooms, what have you. And there's specific times where you have to clean the rec rooms and stuff like that during the day that you're a porter, you have to go do this. I was standing in line, this very tall woman, missing one tooth, and she had glasses and this mushroom haircut. And I just got there and popped out in the general population. I'm a porter. I'm in line waiting to get what detail that I'm going to do. And I'm like, I can't believe I have to be here for 3 years. I was talking to myself. She goes, well, and she's very tall. She looked down at me, very big woman. She looked down at me and she goes, well, I have to be here for 43 years. And I'm like, would you kill somebody? Oh my God. And, I didn't ask her what she did. I basically said, did you kill somebody? And that wasn't, I really wish she would have had killed somebody, because what I learned, what she done, it was horrific. She had, her and her husband had touched their children, and some of their children needed reconstructive surgery because of what they'd done. And they touched them in ways that I don't even want to bring up. But imagine being able, you're in there for drugs and you're talking to somebody that could do that to their children. It was sickening. And when you caught her looking at your son's picture, yeah, it was all bad. So I'm here for drugs and I want to just get out. I do my drug programming, I complete treatment, and I also do schooling. And like I said, I was on the Dean's List, 4.0 GPA. And I met a lot of great people, and I met a lot of crappy people as well. I was in prison with an older lady in the dog program, and she had been caught up in these murders in Kirtland, Ohio, and a cult killing, basically. And she was the sweetest thing ever. I'm sorry, but she really was. She never gave me any problems. She was like this sweet old lady who was, very into Jesus and whatnot. And I left her alone. I was like, whatever, I'm going to treat you how you treat me. But if you're a child molester, don't talk to me. And if you kill your baby, I hate you. So many of us were not allowed to be around our kids. So I'm sure you guys can imagine the same thing. So I complete all of that. I do AA meetings, just to get out of the cottage. I do yoga and recreation, bingo, all kinds of fun stuff. And the lockdowns would come and we wouldn't be able to see our family. Once the hot water went out for weeks, we could only take 3-minute long cold showers, and laundry would break down, a lot of stuff would happen, and it sucked. There was a lot of times in prison that it really sucked. What sucked the most for me was missing my family and my son and not being able to be with them. So January 2017 rolls along. I got there actually November 21st of 2014. And I stayed until January 2017, where I went to the halfway house where I transitioned there. And I'm glad to say that I'll never go back to prison, because I don't want to deal with another halfway house. I don't want to deal with people overdosing every day, because they were overdosing every day. There was cockroaches. It was disgusting. I started smoking cigarettes again, which was so stupid of me, because I only smoked a cigarette here and there in prison. Couldn't find them really, and they were just rolled up cigarettes like toothpicks, not worth the $5. And that's basically like what women's prison was like. It was, it sucks. And like I said about Orange is the New Black, not being like that at all. Well, Piper Kerman, who wrote Orange is the New Black, actually went to that tapestry unit I was talking about. It's one of the honor storms. They had a writing class there where you could sign up, and if you were accepted into that program, you got to stay in that tapestry program. And it was like a very a boot camp kind of recovery unit. and it was an honor dorm, and it was the 2-man cells in there. What I didn't like about it was they made you wear a sign if you didn't make your bed or something, like a dunce sign, like walk around with it. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not humiliating myself. But Piper Kerman would come to the prison and get stories from ladies. So if you're watching Orange is the New Black, or if you have, there are some stories in there that were incorporated because of the Ohio Reformatory for Women, and you can Google that and see that Piper Kerman was a regular at the women's prison. While I was there, Melissa Etheridge came, and we got to go out on the yard and actually see her perform. It was quite nice. And then we had yard days, which yard day was once a year, and we got pop, we got watermelon, we got burgers and hot dogs, and it was absolute fun time. We got to play games and stuff and win prizes, and it was just so much fun, and it lasted all day long. For Christmas and Thanksgiving, we got turkey and we got roast beef one year, and we got they screwed up somehow, and they actually gave us the meat that was supposed to go to the men's prison. Boy, it was the best roast beef I think I've ever had. Sorry, Mom, but it really was. And the next year we got the flat, yucky deli meat one, and it was like, what happened to the good stuff? So Aramark was the company that provided the food for us. And like I said, Chow Hall, if you don't have to go, don't. Don't go to prison. They have milk in bags, and it's disgusting. It really is. And that was my time in the women's prison, the Ohio Reformatory for Women. I was released in January on the 17th, 2017, and it was the best day of my life, getting the F out of there and going to the halfway house where I was only 15 to 20 minutes away from my family instead of 2.5 hours. So you guys, that does it for me for this installment. I will come with my 4th installment of where I'm at today, and basically tell you what has happened from the halfway house until today. And that is... that does it for me for this installment of my addiction series. This is the women's prison series. If you have any other questions, drop them in the comments. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, I'd like to keep this going. If you know anybody who has suffered or and has came out on top, or if they have any good stories they want to share with me, drop them down in the comments. I'd love to hear them. All right, you guys take care of yourselves, take care of one another, stay out of trouble. Please make good choices. All right, I'm Just Jen. I'll see you guys later. Bye.